tonight's keynote speaker, Brandon Starkoff. Brandon graduated from University School in 1995, where he excelled as a student, as a soccer player, and as a track athlete. Brandon went on to graduate from the Miami University, and he currently lives in Chicago, where he's the CEO of a marketing technology consultancy. Brandon and his wife, Amy, have twin 7-year-olds, Matthew and Anna. And in all of Brandon's free time and spare time, he competes in triathlons and he raises money for cancer research. And it's those last tidbits about Brandon that brought him to us here this evening. On a family vacation that I took late in July, I was reading Cleveland.com on my phone, my feet in the sand, and I came across this incredible article about Brandon, a U.S. graduate, training and competing at a triathlon in Cleveland. Brandon is a survivor of brain cancer, and he did these triathlons as a way to raise awareness and raise money for cancer research. So I took out my trusty US app phone and said, I have to contact this guy. So I sent Brandon an email, and I said, if you would ever be in town and would be willing to speak to our students, speak to our coaches, I think your story could be incredibly inspiring. I send a lot of emails like that, I make a lot of phone calls like that, and sometimes you hear from people, and sometimes you don't. And with Brandon, I heard back from him in 35 minutes. And he said, I'd be happy to, anytime. You just let me know where and when. So I was trying to be sensitive and trying to be, sort of mindful of all the things that one has on one's plate. Well, if you're ever in town, if your family's here, if your work is here, you let me know and we could probably build something around your schedule. Nope. You tell me when you need me to be there, and I'll be there. So here we are tonight. So once we scheduled this date, I thought about all the other wonderful opportunities within the school to connect with Brandon. So I asked him if it would be okay if I reached out to Mr. Malkin, who runs the Entrepreneurial Institute. And so the two of them connected. Brandon spent his morning here speaking to 2 of our classes, and by all accounts, it was a huge success. When you think about the school motto, responsibility, loyalty, and consideration, I'd have a hard time believing that any U.S. alumnus embodies that more than what I've seen and experienced firsthand from Brandon Starkoff. So let's welcome him to the stage.
It's a very nice introduction. Thank you very much. Got to be honest, it's a little surreal. Last time I stood here was 22 years ago for my senior speech. And it was funny hearing your soccer captain talk about that 1992 team that went to state. I was here. And actually I was in the junior varsity team. And we'll get to the story. I was actually a goalkeeper in the subsequent years for that team, so I lived in that shadow, which was quite fun. But I want to recognize, the stories. I want to recognize the students, the student athletes, the parents, the faculty, the staff. It was amazing growing up here, and certainly the things that I learned, the experiences I had, are very consistent and very powerful. And you guys have all made amazing achievements. It's clear to me that every athlete in this room is fully dedicated, disciplined, and determined to face the challenges and push the limits to achieve their goals. Furthermore, every coach is pushing each of you to get more out of yourselves as individuals and as a team. The lessons you are learning at US, both on and off the field, from your coaches, your teachers, your parents, will absolutely define you as the person you will eventually become. This wasn't clear to me when I was sitting in your seat, again, 23 years ago, but let me tell you a brief story to prove my point and offer each of you something to take away from tonight. So I actually started here 35 years ago. I started US as a kindergartner. I made great friends here, and actually one of them is here tonight. I met kindergarten Adam Gent, who was a superstar on the track and cross country team here. There's many other folks that don't live here in Cleveland that were also part of that experience. And Adam and I in particular spent a lot of time learning together, socializing together, running along the beaches of Fort Myers, training for our track season, but mostly to impress girls on the beach. But during my high school years, in the fall, I spent my time with the soccer team. I grew up and played soccer my entire life from the age of 5. I spent most of my time as a midfielder, defense a little bit. I didn't really commit to the position of goalkeeper until my sophomore year. Good timing, because again, I mentioned the team had just been to States. So why did I do this? And this theme I'm going to mention to you is very consistent across every one of the captain's speeches, which is for the challenge. Try something that I had no real experience doing. I trained my ass off, frankly. I went to goalie camps. I did drills in my backyard. I came out here on Saturday and Sunday mornings by myself in the summer to get the ball running and practice my drills just to get used to the field and the environment. I joined the 2-day training preschool or preschool start training, 2-day training sessions. It paid off as I made the varsity team my junior year, starting goalkeeper senior year. We made it to district finals. It was that senior year I actually inherited the name Starkoff from my coach Phil Thornton for my ability to bark out orders to the team that helped us advance the ball and defend our goal. And for those that don't know, because you probably weren't alive, General Norman Schwarzkopf was our country's assertive and vocal military leader during the Gulf War. It just so happened the last name sounded familiar, and yes, my voice carried rather well in the field. In the spring, I also decided to test my endurance on the track and field team, running both the 400-meter and 800-meter events. Frankly, I had no right to be on the track team since I had no true endurance running experience, but again, I saw it as a challenge. It was also an opportunity to, frankly, keep myself in shape. As a goalkeeper, you're not running as much as everybody else. But it came much more than that. In fact, I fell in love with endurance sports and training my mind and my muscle to go beyond their limits. This carried me over into college, my college years at Miami University, when I participated in club soccer and led a very active lifestyle. Most of my college friends always saw me as one of the more physically tuned, which either says something about me or them, but that's neither here nor there. Nonetheless, I discovered a great group of friends that have always supported and been inspired by my challenge for this healthy lifestyle. I actually give credit to my parents for that. They were very active with me as a kid. Anyway, I landed in Chicago with a great job, a solid group of friends. I got married, had kids. A few of us, when we first moved there, decided we were going to train for the Chicago Marathon, one of the world's most unique marathons. I had never run one before, not really long distance, guys. I told you. I trained, we got up to 20 miles, and unfortunately I had an injury. I had to have minor surgery in my abdomen. I couldn't run the event, even though I got up to 20 miles. So I had to take the time off. 3 months later, I got back into training, and I've always wanted to run a triathlon. I've always been inspired, and actually Adam and I had talked about this back in high school. Actually, supported the ITU, which is the International Triathlon Union here, as a senior in high school, helping them get events up and running. I'd pick up the athletes at the airport and truck them around and get them to their hotels, and it was amazing just to be part of that, but I never experienced it. So I said, it's time for me to do this. It's time for me to take advantage of one of the world's largest triathlons, which happens to be in Chicago, where I lived, and 8,000 participants. Again, I wanted to run this, never had a chance since high school. I found a great team in Chicago that I was able to train with, coaches I could learn from. Was never really a great swimmer. So every day I got up, 5:30 in the morning, I trained, I swam, sometimes in the dark, ran in the dark in some instances, biked in the dark. This is all before work. I got so ingrained in it, my first one I ran, I got addicted immediately. I couldn't stop. So I ran 6 more over the subsequent 6 years. I then took a break as we had our twins after that 6th one. And that was 7.5 years ago. So, talk about challenges. Raising twins is no joke. By the way, take your time. Honestly, that's a challenge. It's exhilarating, it's exhausting at the same time. For me, someone who had a lot of energy, it was more tiring than I expected. But little did I know why. And then the real challenge came along. The one I had no idea was coming, I was not prepared for. And again, a lot of you captains and your teammates. You talked about the challenges you faced, the things that were unexpected, getting elevated to D1, teams coming on the field that you didn't expect to be as aggressive as you thought. Things come along that are unexpected all the time. In September of 2011, when our kids were 18 months old, on September 25th, I awoke to 4 paramedics standing over me in my bedroom. I was a bit hazy, but I felt the need to talk and ask questions. My first words were, "Hey guys, what's going on?" The paramedics responded, "You've just had a seizure and we're going to take you to the hospital." I looked around the room. I didn't know where my wife was. She sort of peered behind the paramedics with this white, stark look on her face. Again, it didn't occur to me when it happened. It was quite hazy. And my memories on the journey to the hospital were not very clear, but things came into focus once a flood of doctors huddled around me in my 10 by 10 curtain enclosed space at Northwestern Hospital, which just happened to be, fortunately, less than a mile from our home. After CT and MRI scans, the doctors confirmed a mass the size of a baseball in my front left lobe of my brain. It's what ultimately caused the seizure and exhaustion leading up to it. Over the next week, I had a biopsy confirming the mass was what they call a grade 3 astrocytoma. For those that don't know, cancer is graded on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the most severe. Mine was grade 3 astrocytoma, a cancerous tumor, which they believe had been growing for 10 to 11 years. In cancer terms, slow growth is actually a good thing, but there's also many unanswered questions. And despite the fact the mass was condensed, very well circumscribed versus rather being spread throughout my brain, there was no way to extract it without the risk of clipping a ventricle and seizing the right side of my body, paralyzing it. So I was now faced with the ultimate challenge. I could turn my back on it, get mad at the world, and let this cancer get the best of me, or fight like hell and overcome this obstacle. After the doctors shared the news with my wife and I, they left us to be alone for a few minutes. We had 60 seconds of sadness, uncertainty, grief, and frustration. We quickly reset, we realigned our mission to fight like hell as a team. Little did we realize how big our team was, as family, friends, co-workers emerged as amazing supporters and caregivers. I actually had people fly all over the country one night for one single dinner that my friends had set up at a location, just to support me during the holiday. Based on our decision to attack this head on, I chose the most aggressive treatment we could find. 3 months of daily radiation, 9 months of chemo. It was a battle on my body and my mind, but now I'm a 6-year survivor. And everything that I've learned from my athletic experiences, my coaches, my teachers here at US helped me battle through my treatments, remain optimistic, and ultimately overcome the challenges. And I saw a lot of that reflected today from your speeches. You guys, you've earned it, you own it, keep that, embrace that, and never let it go. Since being diagnosed, I spent a great deal of my time fighting like hell for others, facing similar challenges. In 2013, I started my own charity event, raising money for the American Brain Tumor Association, the largest not-for-profit organization that supports grants for brain tumor research. My successful fundraising efforts, we raised, I think, $250,000, led to 3 key research grants, but also a seat on the board of directors where I have responsibility advancing efforts in membership, technology, and fundraising. Additionally, I found my way to connect my passion for triathlons with my fundraising efforts, as was mentioned earlier. This past July, I completed my first Olympic distance event here in Cleveland, and then another in Chicago 1 month later, where I achieved my personal best record. Imagine that, 8 years later, 41 years old, I achieved it after being diagnosed with cancer. Psyched about that one. It's a hell of an achievement, to be honest. All of these events that I do, I support the brain cancer survivor community, caregivers, supporters. And that means a lot to me. I get in contact with people all the time, I get calls all the time, and help educate and guide people through this, and it's a very gratifying thing, and a lot of that I don't think I would really have the energy, the interest to do unless I was really sort of inspired by the things I learned here. So let's bring this back to you, and what you guys can take away from this story. Responsibility, loyalty, consideration are not just words on a crest or a website, but values that you will embrace the rest of your life. I grew up with these values starting at the age of 6. They are core to my DNA and have guided me through these challenges. 1, I uphold my responsibility to support a great cause and challenge myself and others to do better and make a difference. 2, I embrace my loyalties to my family, my friends, and coworkers who supported me through my journey. It takes a loyal and trusted team that always looks out for one another. And 3, I am considerate to everyone I meet along the way, regardless of their situation. So I stand here today as a former U.S. athlete, alumni, graduate of Miami University, CEO of a consultancy, 9-time triathlete, ABTA Board of Directors member, 6-year cancer survivor, and most importantly, loving husband and daddy. I'm psyched to wake up every morning and see what challenges I will be faced with. How will everybody in this room approach your next challenge? Thank you very much. Thank you to the athletes for being so amazing. Thank you.